Hi and welcome to our CAD programming workshop. Our topic for today is not related to computer-aided design actually, and it's not related to geometry. And what I want to discuss today is how to protect the software which we are developing from unauthorized use. So this topic should be relevant to you guys if you develop some commercial software packages, right? If you do not want to expose or publish your sources, if you do not want to give your software for free, then you basically want to protect your software, to issue licenses. It can be a trial version of your software which is limited in time range, or it can be a license locked to a machine, or it can be a floating license which you can reuse across different workstations. So here we have like a product which I'm using myself, and I wanted to make this screencast not only to show you guys how to use this open license manager which I have opened right here, but also for myself, because I tend to forget things, and I used it last time like half a year ago, and since then I completely forgot how to use it because there are some some specific points to address. And here on this website you can head over to this features page, and you will find out that there are two essential features of Open License Manager. One of them is this trial license, so you can issue this trial period for your software, and you can then link your software to a specific hardware. So it means that if you want to expose your software for testing by your clients, then you can issue this trial license with a specified expiration date. And once you sell it, you can you can generate a license locked to a specific physical address of a specific machine. So what we do not have here, we do not have here any floating licenses. We do not have any fancy web application to manage licenses and to count their occurrences, how many licenses are already occupied. So all those things are not yet available, and basically this license CC project is quite simplistic, and it by no means tries to compete with huge commercial players like FlexLM, for example. What I can say about it is that license CC is way easier to get started with compared to FlexLM. So FlexLM is much harder to plug into your software. So let's get started. Let's try to compile the library and see how it works. So here we will start from cloning the repository. There is this git clone command which I'm going to execute. So here I have like my demo folder, and here I have this OLM, which stands for Open License Manager. You see that this folder is currently empty, and now I'm going to clone the repo. There we go, we have our repository. I do not need any user credentials, whatever, so I have these sources right now. And another thing which you will need, and here I'm going to speak about Windows. If you want to compile this license CC on Windows, you will need Boost library. And if you go to the Q&A section here, you will see that, okay, for Windows, the supported version of operating system is Windows 10 and Windows 7 for some of you who are still using this version. And then we have Visual Studio 2019, which is my case exactly. And then we have this Boost version. And for Boost, okay, you will need a version which contains libraries, like you'll need to have these dynamically linked libraries. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to find the installer of Boost for Windows, surprisingly enough, and what I did, actually, I just uploaded this, I just uploaded the version of Boost which I use myself to my website, so you can take advantage of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going just to go and download the Boost installer using this link. Then you will have to go and install Boost on your machine. In my case, I have it already installed. on drive C, boost 171, and if I go there, what I can see, what I have these binaries in lib64 msvc 14.1, so it's exactly the version which I would need to compile a license VC with boost dependency in Visual Studio 2019. So if I go there, I can see that, okay, there are these all, I can see that I have all these lib files and dynamically linked libraries. So I'm kind of good to go with that. The next stage would be to run CMake and to configure license in C using CMake. So here, as usual, I specify the source directory, as you can see, and then I also specify the build directory which I'm going to use for compilation. There we go, and now we can click configure button, and I will keep default setting for the generator, which is Visual Studio 2019, and the default bitness here is x64. And okay, now we see some errors here. So let's check all these settings. What do we have here? First, we have this boost include directory. And here I need to go and specify where my boost is installed. In my case, it's simply C boost 171. So it should be good like that. You see that, okay, boost is currently found. Then, okay, I will keep this testing. So I will be able, once license EC is compiled, I will be able to run tests. Configuration types here, you see that we have debug, release, min size release, and release with debian4. All is fine. Then for the installation folder, I want to change it. I want to install license EC once it is compiled to a folder which is a subdirectory for license EC. Let's call it just install. Then git model, I do not care about this project. Okay, this LCC project name is a pretty important setting here, because it's actually the key, it's actually the name of your project which you want to protect in the license. So here I'm going to name it like my demo, for example, and you can put something more meaningful here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going just to erase these things from here, because I'm not going to work with this. Because it should be just fine like that. So now we can configure it again and see what's happening right now. You see that configuration is done. I have this installation folder. Everything is initialized. All right. And it seems we are good to go. So now I am clicking this generate button, and finally I am ready to open my Visual Studio, and I can now try to compile license C in my machine. There we go. In the Solution Explorer I have all the libraries related to license C. Almost half of them is related to testing, but we do not care that much about it, so let's just go and rebuild this whole solution and see what's going to happen. So far it's all good, I do not see any errors, and this library, this license EC library is quite fast to compile. You can see that it's now preparing some executables for me, which I'm going to use later on. And notice that I'm compiling it for debug mode right now, and actually I'll need to have two versions of the library. I'll have release and debug version of it. So okay, you can see that it is success. I do not have any errors whatsoever. And now what we can do, of course we have to go and install license CC compiled library, and we can also run tests actually. So there is this target here which is run test. It's C-test testing engine behind the scenes, so we can go and build this package, and it will run the tests and print the results of testing right to the Visual Studio output. And it seems that everything is working nicely. You see that all the tests are Okay, and I do not have any problems. This way I can be sure that my license installation is operational. Now let's head over to our installation directory. You can see that, okay, I'll go to this demos. Now here in my license CC folder I have this install directory which was populated by CMake on installation, and you can see that, okay, I have several subdirectories here. I have this bin. Here I have a subdirectory named my demo, which is exactly the project name which I gave in CMake. If you remember, I have this my demo project name for LCC project name variable. Then I have this LCC gen executable, and this is a program which I'm going to run to generate license keys. If I go inside this my demo folder, then I have some LCC inspector. It's actually an executable which you can run. Actually, you can ask your clients to run this executable if you want them to give you the MAC address of the target machine. So you can see that once I run this LCC inspector, it prints everything related to my local machine. And specifically what it prints is this MAC address, this string here. It's not that necessary to use this tool or to bother your clients with running this tool, because in your application, if license is not valid, if you do not have any license file, you can just grab this physical address of the target machine and print it right in the application, so that the customer can go and copy this information from target application itself and send it to you by email or whatever. Okay, so there we go. We have this LCC inspector, we have this my demo folder. Let's move up, and here we have CMake configuration scripts, which we can use to find our compiled library for license protection. We actually are not going to use it, but if you want to use conventional CMake finders, then you can go ahead and use all the things from here. Then we have include. Include folder contains all the header files which you are supposed to include into your sources to compile your software with license CC. So if you want to enable this license protection, you'll have to compile your software against license CC, and you'll have to specify the include directory and to include a couple of things from here. And then in license CC, what we have again this my demo folder, and in my demo folder we have this license cc static.lib. This is a statically linked library, so you are supposed to link this library statically to your application, so that you do not have any dynamically linked libraries to put near your executable, near your program. This license CC will be baked into your software, so that you will not expose it to the users as a dedicated file in the file system, and that means that the users will not be able to easily identify that you have this license CC protection in your application. So that's pretty important to link this sort of things statically. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going just to rename this. Actually, not to rename, because I know that I compile license CC in debug mode, and I want to make this distinction clear. So I want to have one version of the library in debug mode and another version of the library compiled in release mode. So I'm going to create a folder. Let me call it, I don't know, bin, let me call it libd. And into this libd folder, I'm going to move this license CC static lib. And then I'll create another folder. There I am going to put the release version of the library. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just copying, I'm moving this file from my demo folder to the subfolder named libd. And then in Visual Studio, I am switching to release mode and compile and install license CC in release mode. If you want, you can also go and run tests, just to double check that everything is working nicely. Alright, so we have the release version prepared. If I switch back to my file manager, I can see that, okay, I have this new file, new library here, and you can see that the name of this library is exactly the same as its debug version, and that's why I wanted to make this distinction here. So I'm going to move this release version of the library to a dedicated folder, which is lib here for me. So that's basically it. We prepared our project, we named it my demo, and we prepared it for being protected by license CC. I just want to draw your attention to another folder in license CC directory here. You can find that there is this projects folder over here. This is pretty important thing to draw your attention to, because in this folder we also have this my demo project. We have few things here. We have this private key, we have some include. And why I draw your attention to this folder is because from this folder you are supposed to generate your license keys. So you are supposed to run this license key generator when you are here, when you are in this folder. And that's pretty important, because if you try to do it differently, then you'll have runtime errors issued by a license generator. Now let's move on and try to prepare a sample executable where we are going to take advantage of this license protection mechanism. So I'm going to create, I don't know, a folder named app for application, and here I'm going to put some sources. So let's just create main function, main CPP, and it will be just, you know, main function as you typically do. And it will print something like hello protected world, and I'll need to include something like IO stream. There we go. So the idea right now is that I want to put license check here, and if I have a license, if I have a valid license on my machine, or if I have a trial license key, then I'll see this printed message. I'll see this hello protected world, and if I do not have any license, if I am not authorized to use this application, then I'll have some license error. So there we go. And I'm going to use CMake to configure this project. And for that, let me head over to our repository with lessons, which is gitlab.com. SSV lessons. If you go to this page, you will see that there is a bunch of lessons here, and you can head over to extras license CC. And from here, I'm going to grab a couple of files. So I'm going to take this CMake list. Let me just copy the file contents, and I'll create another CMake lists.txt and paste the contents of this CMake file here, and then I'm going also to take all from this main CPP, because here there is a bunch of code. Again, we have this hello protected world string, but you can see that there is something else. This function here in the beginning of the main function is supposed to check that the license is okay or not. So we have this license CC utils, and then is license okay. And this function is license okay is not coming from license CC itself. It's rather declared here. So it's an inline function, and this inline function, it uses some API of license CC. So for now, let's just copy all the contents of this file and paste it here. There we go. So looking into this CMake txt file, what we can notice, what we can see from here is, okay, there is a project named extras license CC. When I keep using Open Cascade, I don't know, I mean, you can remove it from here if you are not using Open Cascade. I have it as a dependency, and I configure my include directories to include something from Open Cascade. It's not related to license CC anyways. Then I have this add definition. So here the idea is to enable a preprocessor macro, which I can use down the road programmatically if I want to check in the code if license protection is enabled or not, because you might want to disable this license protection for the development purpose. Then there is this third-party license CC directory. This license CC directory is where your license CC library is installed. And then I configure include directory for license CC and also configure this library directory for license CC. When I configure my include directories, when I include not only the include directory of the license CC library itself, but I also have to include something related to my project. So if I navigate to my installation folder of license CC and go to include directory here, then you see that, okay, I have this license CC folder, but I also have my demo folder down below, and I have to use it here. I have to use my project name like my demo, because it also contains something to include. If I go here, I can see that, okay, there is something named public key, there is some license CC properties. We do not care that much about the contents of those files, we just need to add this folder to our include directory, so that the compiler will know where to take these files from. And then finally I have this add executable. I name my executable as extras license CC, I add my main function, main CPP there. And then I start to configure the linker. Once I added this executable via CMake, I can use its name to configure the linker options. So here I first configure something related to Open Cascade, which is not quite relevant to our discussion here. And what is relevant, what is related to license CC is these three statements. So here I have my project name. Then for debug mode and for release mode, I have different instructions to CMake what to do. And you can see that, okay, for debug mode I'm going to include my statically linked library. I only have to go and change my project name to my demo here. And I also think that I named it like libd and just lib here. Yeah, so there we go. This way we let the linker know where to take our libraries from. And on Windows I also have to include this bcrypt.lib, because otherwise it's not going to compile, it's not going to link. Okay, and yeah, a couple of settings more which are not relevant to license CC. So I'm pretty sure that you can use CMake files provided together with license CC library itself, but I'm using this old schoolish approach to find my libraries manually without using any find package finder mechanism here. So it's probably not the best thing, but it's working, and I invite you to check if this find package will work for license CC. Because I think it should. Okay, so now we have this CMake list prepared, and I'm switching to my application in CMake because I want to configure it here. So I'm changing my source folder name to app here, and then I also put app here. So there we go. Now I can configure, keep using the default generator. And let's see what's going to happen. You see that I have some error. It's not surprising because CMake was not able to identify where my license CC is installed, so I have to point to the right version of license CC. Now I can select where my license CC is installed. I'm just pointing to the install directory of license CC. And I'll let CMake to fill all the missing variables over here. Okay, you can also see that Open Cascade is not found, so I'm supposed, I think, to point CMake to the right version of Open Cascade as well, which is going to be installation folder of Open Cascade, then CMake. Will it work like that? Okay, and for license, it still has some stupid value. So yeah, I'm pointing to the installation folder. It's not, yeah, it's this variable, it's license CC_dir, as you can see. So I keep it like that, and then I configure it, and you can see that CMake was able to identify automatically include directory, which is install include license CC, and then library dir here. And okay, you can also configure this CMake install prefix for your software, but I'm just, I'm going to run it from the build directory, and that's why I do not care that much about this CMake install prefix over here. So now we can generate the ID project and open our Visual Studio to see what do we have. Okay, we have a typical layout of our project. We have all build, zero check. We do not have install. And we are going to head over to main.cpp, and you can see that what we have to include is this single header. It's license cc.h. So this is actually the only header file which contains all the definitions of all the API functions you are supposed to use. And I added this namespace, which provides a set of handy functions you might want to call from your code. Like if we head over to main function, you can see that there is this is license okay, check here, and if license is not okay, we print something like we cannot run this program without a license, and then we return error code, and you will not see the useful outcome here. So let's try to compile this whole thing, because I expect that there is some problem, right? It's not going to compile like that. Let's try to see what's going to happen. Alright, so it says that we cannot find this license cc properties.h, and I expect that there is this include statement here, then there is this data types, and somehow inside it includes this license cc properties.h. So it means that we are missing something. And let's go to the project properties and try to find out what CMake prepared for us. So if we go to C, C++, then general, we have this additional include directories. And let's see what do we have there. We have this cwork demos license cc install include license cc, and then my demo here. So let's try to match it with the reality. Okay, so we have my demo. Alright, you can see from here that my include directories are not configured properly because I have this OLM folder which is not used here, and that's simply because I had this another installation for license CC, and I have to go and reconfigure this whole project once again. Now let's see if it's any better. I think yes. Yeah, you can see that now it's going to compile, I believe. And there we go. So what we can do now, we can try to run it actually and see what's going to happen. So I'll put a breakpoint here. You see that I have this empty screen right now, and if I step over this if statement, then you see that we cannot run anything, we cannot run our program because we are missing the license. And you see that this is actually what is printed here. License file is not found, and your PC identifier is this one, and here we have this hardware identifier which we can use to generate a license. So why this happens? Let's try to understand how it all works. So I'm going to run it again, and this time I'm going to step into this is license okay check. So what do we have? We have this call which is acquire license. Actually this is an API function of license CC. And you can go to their official website of license CC, to the API section, and you will find that okay, there are quite some functions for you to call. Not many of them. One of them is identify PC, which is supposed to return the hardware identifier of the machine. Then we have, what else do we have? We have this acquire license, which we are currently debugging. Then we have, actually, we have nothing else. We have just a couple of functions. So we try to acquire a license, and if we succeed, then we let our program execute, and if we do not, then we print the information about our machine to the console or to dedicated UI widget. It doesn't matter. So here we try to acquire a license. You can see that there are 3 arguments here. And what is good about this Open License Manager is that we can easily check its sources, we can navigate into the code and see what we are supposed to do with all this. So that's why it's pretty handy. So you can see that there is some caller information, license location and license out. Actually, you can keep all these parameters. You can pass null pointers to all those parameters, and it will enable the default finding strategy. Like we can try to debug it a bit. You can see that there is a project name. The project name here is my demo because it is inherited from this CMake variable which we identified, which we declared when we configured license CC for the first time. We can see that there is this my demo. And then we try to read all the licenses. Okay, we have no licenses because you can see that the size of this collection right here is 0. And if we do not have any licenses, then we just return. We have this license file not found, status code, and some diagnostics. And finally, we return this license code. This license code we then turn into the string. You can see that this is actually the purpose of this function here. It accepts one of the predefined license codes from LCC, and it turns the license code into some human readable message. So you might want to reuse this small piece of code for decorating these returned statuses to something more tangible for the users. Alright, so what we have then? What's that? What we have then? We have this check here if license code is okay when we return true. If not, then we print the identifier. And somehow I finished my debugging session occasionally, so let me repeat this experiment again. Alright, so we are here, we have this license code, you see it's license not found. And then there is this block of code, and the only purpose of this thing here is to print your PC identification number. So we can do this in 2 invocations. So the first invocation, identify PC, is supposed to allocate the buffer where we will put the unique number of our machine. So it's only purpose to allocate the memory. You can see that there is this car pointer here, it's null pointer, and after this invocation, this pointer is still null, but we have the buffer size. We have this buffer size initialized with 20. And then, since this buffer size is initialized, we have some number here, we can allocate an array of car here, and it's going to be an array of 20 characters, and then we can initialize this buffer with some meaningful identifier. And you can see this is exactly the identifier which I see on the screen. So we can print this identifier to our users, and then they can send us this identifier so that we can go and generate the license key for them. So there we go. Now the question is how to generate the license file, how to make this condition return true. So that's a question, and to answer that question we can of course read documentation, or we can go to this acquire license once again and try to understand what actually it tries to find. So let's run it again. All right, acquire license, we are here, we are inside. And now we are interested in this read licenses function, read licenses method, which is called on an object named LR. I think it's license registry or something, or license reader. Yeah, you see it's license reader. Okay, and the license reader is initialized from the license location. I think it's one of the things you might want to customize for your application, but let me keep just this default null pointer and see what's going to happen. The project name is still my demo. I step inside this read licenses, skip all the things related to standard library, and now we have these read licenses. Okay, we have this something called like Locator Strategy, and we have this set of strategies. Like a license CC has various strategies, like we call it, to find your license key, and we have just one element in this collection, and it is related to something called application folder. So from this name I would suppose that a license CC tries to find a valid license file in the working directory of my executable. Alright, so we have this return code, which is okay here. So let's move on and see what's going to happen. Okay, we have this product name pointer. It's a string. We have this my demo as a product name. We have our locator as our location strategy and license locations. Somehow we ended up having nothing here. So what we can do, we can come back to this loop here and try to execute it once again. So we have this license locations, which is 0, and it's the only strategy. I think we have to go inside this license location invocation over here. So if we go there, what do we see there? Okay, we have finally something related to file system. So let's try to see. Okay, we have a module name. The module name is actually the name of our executable. You can see it's a full path. It's a working directory from where I run my executable. The executable name is extras license.cc.exe. So the module name is this one without extension. It's extras license.cc. And actually, what's going to happen, what LCC is trying to do, it tries to find a file named extras license cc, which is the name of my executable, plus the extension, which is this default extension for the license key files. And it's going to be this file. It's going to be extras license cc.lic. Apparently, I do not have any files like that because I didn't, generate any file like that. And that's actually why this file could not be located in the file system, and that's why it returns nothing, and there is no license file status code at the end. So now let's see how can we generate such a file for ourselves. For that, let's head over to the folder where we have this LCC gen. We have this LCC gen, and this is exactly the executable which we are supposed to run to generate our license file. So we can run it without any argument and see what's going to happen. You see that it sort of runs and it says that okay, I can do nothing because you did not specify right properties. So what I can do right now is I can run it once again and give it some settings like license, issue, and then help. And now it's giving me all the properties which I can use to generate my license file. And this is, self-explanatory enough. We can see from here that okay, there is something related to verbosity of our output, when the setting related to encoding something to base 64. I never used this setting myself, so I have no idea. So what we care about is this valid from setting. Here, if we do not pass any value, it will mean that our license is active starting from today. Then expiration date or valid to. If we want to generate our trial license, then we have to specify this validity range. And we can do this by giving this expiration date. Then there is a signature of the client hardware. And if we do not specify any signature, it means that we are going to issue like a demo license, which is not, locked to any machine, you can distribute it to all your clients. Just make sure to specify this expiration date so that this license will automatically expire. And I think that's basically it, and this is quite enough to have these settings for our purposes. And if you want to use some more advanced settings, you can go and read the documentation to see what else this license generator executable can do for you. And the idea right now is to go to the folder. You can, if you remember, we have this projects folder in license CC main directory. Then we navigate into this my demo project, and from here we are going to run this LCC generator. I'm only going to specify the expiration date, so it's going to be the year is 2021. Then I want to keep my license file valid till the December 31. So let's do it like that. Okay, and of course what I forgot to do, I forgot to give the command which I want to execute, and it's going to be license issue. So I'm going to issue a demo license for my project, my demo project, and it is indicated by the folder name which I'm currently in, and then I specified just the expiration date. Alright, so you can see that the license is written. And I can find my license key. I don't know where. Okay, I do not know where my license is located, because I also had to specify this output setting over here. So let's try to fix that, and I'm going to give it a name. And if you remember, what licenses you was looking for is the name of my module, which was with extras underscore license cc and then .lic, like that. Alright, so we have this executable right now. So what I can do now is I can put this file into the folder, into the working directory with my executable. So once again, if I run it right now, if I run my executable without any license file, you see that license is missing, your PC identifier is this one, and you cannot do anything because you do not have a license. Alright, but once I put this license here, once I put this license here, and I try to run this executable once again, you see that okay, it starts to work, because you see that license status is okay, and we have our useful code executed, and we have this highly confidential string printed to our console, and we have this hello protected world. So finally, if you check the contents of this file, you can see that it's not that big. It's kind of just three lines of declarations, some signature here, and there is this validity range. And okay, what you might want to do, what you might want to cheat is, okay, I have this trial period like that, but can I extend it? Can I just go and set something like this here? Can I just make this license file working for 1 year more? Because why not? So let's try to run it like that. Let's try to kind of, hack it and to see what's going to happen. I'll run it once again. And you see, okay, it's not working. It says that license signature did not match the current license. And actually it means that your license file is kind of corrupted. You happen to corrupt your license file. So you cannot easily, tweak the license file and to prolongate your trial period like that. And if I go and give it the original date and save it, then I think it should be fixed. Yeah, now it's working properly. Alright, that's what I wanted to cover today. We discussed this license CC package. It's pretty simplistic. It's kind of very useful, especially if you are not developing some gigantic, highly confidential software and you're not that paranoid about security issues. Then it's definitely an option for you to check. And it provides these two basic features which you expect to find in a protection library like that. it can help you to prepare a trial version of your software, and it can also generate the license keys locked to a specific machine. So give it a try and see you next time.